What's up, guys? This is CSB, and today I'm doing something a little different, clearly. But I'm going to do another little deck profile, but I'm doing it again differently. Usually, I do like the PowerPoint thing where I'm just talking and all that good stuff, but I wanted to try this out. Obviously, I can't do this with every deck because a lot of the decks I don't have a lot of the pieces to, but this deck in particular, I have most of the stuff, so I figured, I'll try it, see how this goes. Y'all can definitely let me know what you think of these type of videos as opposed to like the PowerPoint things at the end. But pretty much it's going to be the same concept. I'm just going to talk about the deck, the strong points, the weak points, what I like, what I don't like, and then, we got a clear overview of the deck, obviously. But, so yeah, anyway, let's get into it. So this is a new deck. Well, it's not new. It's Vespiqueen. Everyone knows what Vespiqueen is, what it does, who it is, all that good stuff. It's been around for a while, but at least initially, myself included, everyone thought, Vespiqueen's not going to do much in the new format. Battle compressors out. There's not really ways to get Pokemon in a discard pile reliably and quickly enough for it to be relevant. But a lot of different people have been floating these lists around. I know the first place I saw it was off the Trashalanche.com, so give a shout out to that. But so I took their basic concept of the list and I ran with it in my own variation of it and all that stuff. But so yeah, basically it's using Klefki and Unknown, an Acrobike and things like that to still just get Pokemon in a discard pile and try to move as quickly as possible. Obviously, you're not still moving, battle compressor fast, but you're still moving at a decent speed. So I'll go over the deck list and everything like quick, and I'll make sure to let you know things that I've added that I've not seen, or all that stuff. So first up, I'll go over the basics, like the core stuff. You've got your Shamans, obviously, but the thing with Shaman in this list, a lot of the ones that I've seen have been running 3 to 4. Don't have 4. I don't even have 1 online. I only have a Shaman, so I would only do it with 1. And in my mind, the benefit of running it with just 1 or 2 or something like that is it's less EXs that you have on your bench to cluster things up. So in this version, I'm running 1. Then I'm running a 2/2/1 Zoroark break line. Zoroark's a good alternate attacker, especially if you come up with matchups like Mega Ray and things like that, where they're going to load up their bench. He's got the maneuverability, which, because our main attacker is Vespiqueen, it doesn't really matter because of the maneuverability that he has, because the Vespiqueen has free retreat and things like that. But being able to stand in and retreat with float stones and things like that's always valuable, especially when it's just a cheap attack for 2 energy. So he's in there, and then you've got the break. The break works 2 different ways. He works just by giving you the HP boost to Zoroark. You go from 100 to 140. There's a lot of knockouts that you were getting before that they're not getting now, like Giratina's not a knockout anymore, one shot at least, and things like that. So it's, in essence, putting a Fighting Fury belt minus the plus 10 damage. But so that's good. And also, Foul Play is a really cool attack. Just for Darkness Energy, you can copy the attack of the other Pokemon. So let's say they have a Giratina out, or, anything like that. A Giratina is just the most recent one thing I can come to mind, but you got Giratina out, you Foul Play, KS will back onto them and lock them out of different things, like, so let's say they haven't quite set up, or you Lysander out Giratina, which, by the way, I do not have Lysander on this list. Need to change that. I need to have Lysander on this list. So, putting that out there, I do not have Lysander on here right now. Good to know. Okay, so, moving on with that. And then the main crux of the deck to get things moving and going and things like that, or the Klefkis and the Unknowns. For those who aren't familiar with Klefki, you know, it's got the ability Wonderlock. You discard Klefki, and it becomes a Pokemon tool that you attach to one of your other Pokemon. And what it says is basically you prevent all damage done from any Mega Pokemon. And damage is relevant, by the way. It's not effects. It's not like Giratina's special ability. It just prevents damage. So they can still damage change you and things like that if you're going up against a Mega Mewtwo and all that good stuff. Just FYI, I found that out the hard way because I just assumed it was attacks and effects of. But anyway, so one of the concepts you want to get going with this is you get a bunch of Klefkis down, get a bunch of unknowns down, or at least one unknown down. You Wonderlock Klefki onto another Klefki, then you Wonderlock that Klefki onto another Klefki, then onto another Klefki, and then you take that last Klefki and you Wonderlock on an unknown, then use unknown's farewell letter, discard unknown, draw a card, and then you put up, you know, 3 to 4 Pokemon in the discard pile in one turn, which is, you know, battle compressor speed. You know, you're getting 3 to 4 to 5, depending on how many Klefkis and unknowns you have in the discard pile at the same time, which is pretty strong. And that's how the deck functions, basically. You do that, and you got the unknown discarding that, and then you've got the Acrobikes just getting, and the Ultra Balls, just getting Pokemon in the discard pile, depending on the kind of situation you're in, depending on what Pokemon you need to keep or not. If you're in a Mega matchup, you might keep Klefkis around a little bit longer, you know, attach them into Vespiqueen so you can deal with Mega Mewtwo's or deal with Mega Rays a little easier. So you got that one working on. So yeah, obviously that's with the unknown. And then everyone knows what Combi and Vespiqueen does. You know, 2 colorless, Bee's Revenge, 20 damage plus 10 for every Pokemon in the discard pile. It's super strong. It's not Night March strong, but it's still super strong. Generally, you're going to start 2-shotting bigger Pokemon, but which is something, and I'll show you a little bit that I've added to the deck personally that works around that a little bit. Yeah, I mean, it's not unreasonable to start doing 120, 130 damage by turn 2 or 3, depending on how you get things rolling. And then finally, for the rest of the Pokemon, we've got the Eevee line, and this is something I've added personally, just because being able to hit for weaknesses and things like that I think is really strong, to kind of make up for either the speed of not being able to get Pokemon in the discard pile quick enough, or starting to get knockouts a little earlier, potentially. So I'm just running a 2-1-1-1 Eevee line, just the basic Eevee, and then the 3 Stage 1 EVs that give typing to your other Pokemon. So we've got, you know, Vaporeon makes all of your Stage 1 Pokemon Water type, Flareon, which makes all of your Stage 1 Pokemon Fire type, and then Jolteon, which makes all of your Stage 1 Pokemon Electric type. So you're able to hit for different weaknesses and stuff. Obviously, you are Grass type with the Vespiquen, and you're a Dark type with Zoroark. I would probably consider dropping the Flareon line, unless you end up running against Caesar, which gives you really good, or not really good, but a better matchup against Caesar to look forward to. You know, Jolteon would be for Mega Ray, and Yveltal and things like that, and then Vaporeon. It's more just for like Volcanion, which would hit you for weakness. I mean, you're already hitting water for weakness because of Vespiquen, and certain psychic types you're hitting for weakness with Zoroark and things like that. So again, that's something I've personally added. I know a lot of the discussion about the deck lists and things like that I've seen as far as the Pokemon go is running. So I've seen some of them run Raichu, some of them Zebstrika, and different things like that. I don't know. Raichu's okay, I guess, but I feel like the point of the deck is counterintuitive to running Raichu. You want to get rid of a bunch of Pokemon on your bench instead of, you know, stockpiling them up for Raichu to do more damage. And then Zebstrika I could understand a little bit more because, you know, it's just a stage 1, and anything that you want to hit with Zebstrika, you're going to one-shot because of its ability and things like that. So you're able to get out Yveltal, you're able to get out Rayquaza, and things like that. Which, again, I've subbed that out for running the Jolteon and the Eevee line. So you're still hitting that with the Combis and the Zoroarks. on a bigger spectrum for bigger damage and things like that. So again, it's just a personal preference. Like I said, I've seen it ran with Raichu. Another one I've seen it ran with a little bit, and I've read about it being ran with, is Yanmega, which I think is okay. I mean, it's a cheaper attacker to run early, but I don't like it personally. I mean, a lot of situations where you can't run, have enough cards in your hand, either have too little or too much to do Yanmega's ability. And you don't really want to attach energy to Yanmega. Also, if you run into Garbodor, I mean, this deck already has problems with Garbodor, but if you run into Garbodor, Yanmega is literally useless. At least if you run into Garbodor now, like, you have other options, like discarding the Klefkis and the Unknowns, you know, with Ultra Balls and Acrobikes and things like that. Which, I mean, I guess technically you can do it with Yanmega and things like that. I just don't think it's necessary. I mean, Comby's already hitting for that grass weakness for just 2 colorless, so it's really not that much of a stretch in my mind. But if you think it works better for you, by all means use that. Let's go into the supporters. You know, obviously, you know, we want to get as much stuff into the discard pile as quickly as possible. So we got Acrobikes, Professor Sycamores, Ultra Balls, things like that, and then we want to get to those cards that discard things quicker. So we've got, you know, Trainer's Mail, things like that. Also, we have Special Charge, which is good for getting the double colorless energy back into the deck in case you know, lose a Vespiqueen or have to burn some off of Sycamores and things like that. And then Revitalizer to get your Pokemon back, your grass Pokemon back. I could really consider, because I, for whatever reason, don't have Lysander on this list. Just looking at it initially, I would cut the Revitalizer to put in the 2 Lysander. And then Floatstone obviously is for Zoroark, and then Force the Giant Plants, get Vespiqueens out as fast as possible. I've seen a lot of options running just 1 Forest, which is totally fine. You could run just 1 or 2 or even more if you want to. I think 2 is kind of the happy medium where you're drawing it when you need it, with all the going through the deck and everything like that without it being prized. That would suck. Just to get it out going as quickly as possible. I know a lot of people are trying to run this deck a little bit slower to try to hit stronger late game. I haven't tested it out with that theory in mind. I think it helps a little bit more to have Shamans and stuff to go that route online, but again, I don't have Shaman online, so I do run this deck online, but I don't run with the Shaman and things like that. And then for the energy count, it's just a pretty basic 4 double colorless energy, and then 2 darkness energy just to power up Foul Play off of Zoroark Break. You could cut that down to 1 darkness if you wanted to, just to kind of mess with those numbers a little bit. You know, because Foul Play is really not the way you want to be attacking, but if you need to be attacking, you do it Foul Play. So yeah, again, depending on how you run this deck, if you go the route with either a Shaman or multiple Shamans or things like that, it kind of depends on the budget on this deck. Obviously, the less or no Shamans you run, the more budget-friendly this deck is. I mean, theoretically, if you were to go without the Shamans, without the Zoroarks, instead of running Zoroark, you run like Raichu or something like that, you could theoretically build this deck, not counting the VS Seekers, probably like $20. Super cheap. Vespiqueens are really cheap right now. They've always been cheap. Acrobikes would probably be your more expensive card. I know they went up to like $2 or $3. And then Trainer's Mail. That might be a little bit more expensive. So again, this deck can be built super cheap. It's just depending on what you're willing to cut. I think you're fine running 1 Shaman. You probably need at least 1. I've made it work several times online without Shaman. But again, that's online. I mean, and I've been dealing with Mega Ray and Mega Mewtwo and things like that. So I guess going in that transition, discussing the matchups of this deck. This deck has surprisingly good matchups. Like, when I first saw this deck, I was like, I don't know about it. Seems kind of jicky to me. But it's really strong. Like, you can deal with things very quickly. You you know, getting all those unknowns and the Klefkis out in the discard pile, and you just start two-hitting everything with the Combi, whatever you can't get. We're not quite there with the Vespiqueen. You get Zoroark in. Zoroark kind of cleans up. It does a lot of damage. Like I said, because of having the Klefki options and things like that, you can work around the Mega Decks, which obviously are super prevalent right now. It deals with Mega Ray probably the best of the Mega Decks. You have to watch out for Mega Mewtwo and Scizor because, like I mentioned earlier with the Klefki, it doesn't prevent effects of attacks from Megas. So if you're not one-shotting the Mega Mewtwo, which is difficult, they can turn around and damage change all that back off to you. And, you know, a Vespiquen only has 90 HP, so it doesn't take a lot to damage change all that back and one-shot you. So just something to keep in mind. Same thing with Scizor. Because we are so double colorless energy reliant, he can, even with the Klefki chain on, still discard your special energy. So again, these are things to keep in mind, but if you get rolling quickly, especially against the Scizor, running the Flareon, which is kind of my purpose behind it, you're knocking him out pretty quickly. You only need, I don't know, 10 or 11 Pokemon in the discard pile, which really isn't that difficult to get to. I mean, you're running 4 Unknown, 4 Klefki, which they can get in there pretty quickly. And then if you're going against Scizor, chances are just get rid of the Zoras and the Zoroarks and things like that. Burn a Klefki line, or not Klefki line, Combi and Vespiquen line, sorry. It's like 3 in the morning over here, and I just got on a long stream, so... which is why I wanted to talk about the deck now. But again, I think this deck is super interesting. I'm curious to see how much play it's going to get. It's being talked about to the point I've even seen several tier lists that have came out that have rated this like the top deck in the format right now, which I don't necessarily agree with, at least in its current iteration. I think it needs some work, but it's super strong when it does work. Also, a side note, this deck's lifespan is probably not very long. Here in, you know, September 21st, the new Battle Arena decks are going to be coming out, Rayquaza and Keldeo EX. In those will be Karen, which for those who don't know, Karen's a card that basically says no more Night March and Expanded, and no more Vespiquen in Standard or Expanded. Whenever you play Karen, it's a supporter. Each player takes all the Pokemon in their discard pile and shuffles them back into the deck. This is the card that, you know, we knew it was coming out. We just weren't sure when it was going to come out. And so there was all that hullabaloo about whether it was going to be out for states, or not states, for Worlds or Nationals or whatever, which it didn't. Night March didn't win anyway. But we do have a time now. It comes out September 21st in the Battle Arena decks. As of right now, that's the only place you can get the card. And then it will be Standard and Expanded legal the 3 Fridays following. So I think it ends up being on like the 14th or something like that, I think is what it came out to be. I'll look that up. So let's see. The 7th, I think. Maybe the 7th. It's either the 7th or the 14th, which would make it legal for, I think, Florida regionals. So you've got a month, and that this deck is still relatively relevant. And then Night March and Expanded. The thing about this deck, though, while Karen does cripple it, it doesn't necessarily kill the deck. I mean, you've got different things working with you. And this is the same thing that goes with Pokemon Ranger and all those kind of cards. Like, they have to be able to get the Karen when they need the Karen. If they don't get it, then it doesn't do anything for them, and you're still doing what you're doing. Also, because of how the way the deck runs, and you're not using battle compressors and things like that, you can get the Unknown and the Klefkis back out and just discard them again with their abilities and things like that. It's not super difficult to do. I mean, it's not ideal, obviously, but if you're going through it and you're knocking out EXs with Vespiquen and things like that, and then they drop a Karen, I mean, hopefully you're far enough in the prize trade where you can make it up. And then again, in my mind, having the Eevee line helps future-proof that a little bit because you're able to hit for weakness. You don't need as many Pokemon in the discard pile. Again, it does make it a little clunky, but in my mind, it makes it move a little smoother, and because you don't need that high amount of Pokemon in the discard pile in order to get the one-shots and things like that because you're hitting for weakness. Obviously, you're missing the weakness on Mewtwo. I think that's in Fairy. You're not hitting weakness for Fairy, but majority of the fairies that you have to worry about don't have ridiculously high HP anyway. And then certain fighting types you're not hitting a weakness for because they don't have a psychic Eevee that does this. And then obviously Mewtwo, you're not hitting for weakness on Mewtwo. So those are the ones you have to watch out for. But you're definitely hitting weakness on Ray. You're hitting weakness on Volcanion. You're hitting weakness on Scizor. And you're hitting for weakness on any other grass type. So mirror match weaknesses, Sceptile, you know, things like that. And then you're hitting for weakness for Yveltal or Yveltal EX and things like that. So you got a wide spectrum. I wish I could find a way to make it to where we could hit weakness on fairies and things like that. I mean, you would need to like maybe throw a Cabalion in there, but then you would need Steel Energy. So there's tricky. Again, but you need to watch out when you're playing this deck. Watch out for Garbodor. If you see Garbodor, get the Lysander out, knock that bitch out. If not, you're gonna have a problem because you can't get rid of Klefkis and Unknowns that are on your bench. But so yeah, anyway, that's all I got for y'all today, guys. Again, trying out this new format. I don't know if I necessarily like it, but it's got the face cam. Apparently, that's the nuts doing face cam, which I'm not unfamiliar with. I stream on Twitch, by the way, plugging myself. But so I'm used to doing the face cam and talking like that and all that. But let me know what you think. Whether you like this way of doing the videos, or you'd rather me go back to like the PowerPoint things, where I go over it differently and it's written and it's on screen and all that good stuff. But anyway, yeah, let me know. But yeah, that's all I got. So I will see y'all next time.